Hello and welcome to this short summary. This is probably going to be a longer short summary as we are discussing the Tri-State tornado outbreak that occurred almost 100 years ago on March 18th of 1925. This event was caused by a relatively classic March setup with obviously your cold front and dry land and warm front all participating and doing the things that they do, of course. However, we did have some uniqueness, and so just tuck that into the back of your mind for later, because I'll talk about that in just a few minutes and at the very end here. We had 12 at least tornadoes. Those are the tornadoes that have been confirmed to have happened from this event. It is, in my opinion, probably unlikely to find any more related to this event, even though there probably was indeed more. But I digress. So, at least 12 tornadoes. Three of them we know were violent, or assumed to be violent. This event would last approximately 7 hours long, cause 571 deaths, cause 2,289 injuries, and cause, in 1925 US dollars, more than 17 million US dollars in damage. Because our first notable in this chronological list that I go by is indeed the Tri-State Tornado, I want to first discuss some of the factors of the supercell itself. So, it formed pretty close to the center of the surface low, which also happened to be near the triple point. The triple point is not is not only, I should say, is not only where water can be a solid, liquid, and gas at the same temperature, but I'm talking about in terms of more meteorological aspects where the cold front, the warm front, and the dry line all connect, so to say. They technically never truly do so. They are just air masses moving around, but you get the idea. So this again, so where all three of those connect would be called a triple point. This happened to be also near the center of the surface low. This the supercell that would first obviously start off as a thunderstorm before getting a rotating updraft and then becoming a supercell. First formed around 40 minutes before the first evidences of tornadic damage and tornadic reports. More specifically, reported funnel clouds. And as you can imagine, as I wrote here already, the first reported funnel cloud from from the supercell was at 12:40. So this storm started off at around noon Central Daylight Time. This supercell was, I'm going to assume at least, based off of just the characteristics of the cell itself, although this is not truly confirmed, discrete in nature. I talked about a cell being discrete in the December 10th, 2021 tornado outbreak video, but if you do not know what discrete means for a supercell, it means that it is completely by itself. There are no other storms necessarily around it. More likely than not, storms are probably going to be relatively close to it, but not close enough to disturb the supercell. This allows a supercell to take advantage of everything it can, and it will do so. That's kind of how energy consumption and then release works. Uh, this supercell being located directly near the center of the surface low and also practically at the triple points of the fronts was a near perfect location for this supercell to just be completely uninterrupted, which is most likely exactly what happened. We saw this almost near exact same scenario However, this cell is still different than the Quad-State Supercell, which started in Arkansas and then it went all the way to Kentucky. Lastly, the supercell most likely transitioned, or at least I should say reported to have transitioned to a high precipitation mode near West Frankfort. This is approximately where this black triangle is at in the middle of southern Illinois here. That's just around where West Frankfort is. A high precipitation cell is obviously going to be producing more rain and hail. There's more moisture available and would cause the tornado most likely to become rain wrapped, which would have made it even more dangerous than it already was. Granted, this was 1925. Construction was not as good. The word tornado was still banned by the Weather Bureau, which would become the NWS, of course. And tornado forecasts would not be happening until 1950, and the first successful tornado forecast would happen in 1948. So we are still a while away from good tornadic safety here in 1925. With that, I have to get into the Tri-State tornado, of course. This tornado went to the west-northwest of Ellington, Missouri, all the way to Oatesville, Indiana, and is estimated to be an F5. This tornado caused 695 deaths, just over 2,000 injuries, and caused most of the dollar amount in damage at around $17 million in damage. This path is estimated to be approximately 352 kilometers long. However, I'll discuss this at the very end here, that the path could be longer and is estimated to have been 2.4 kilometers wide at its widest point. This tornado would thankfully spare, first of all, Ellington and Redford, Missouri. However, completely annihilated Annapolis, Missouri, destroying 90% of the town. Near Sedgwicksville, which is approximately close to Beale, although not necessarily where Beale is at. If that town is pronounced wrong, please just let me know, because phonetics is not my strong suit, even though my first language is English. Again, so sorry. Near Sedgwicksville, Sedgwick, there's not a second S, sorry, Sedgwickville, Missouri, there is reported ground scouring. This was pretty deep, according to two separate independent and very good sources. Anywhere from 5 to 6 inches, that scouring report is consistent on that. It would then, at around Beale, which is in Perry County of Missouri, produce a double funnel for approximately 4 miles. This double funnel could have been a multitude of things. It could have been the tornado briefly becoming vortex distinctively. It could have been a satellite tornado, or it could have even been a second tornado produced by the same supercell. All of these options are on the table, but all we know was that a double funnel is reported at this point. It would then transition back into a single funnel. Gorham, Illinois was one of the first towns hit by the Tri-State tornado in Illinois. And at around 2:30 Central Daylight Time, Gorham was practically wiped off the map. An estimated 100% of the town was destroyed. Not just damaged in some way, destroyed. Keep in mind, again, I'll say this a lot, construction was not as good as it is 98 years later, but still, that is extremely intense. It was also around Gorham, Illinois, that more ground scouring was reported, anywhere from, I believe it was 1 to 4 inches. The tornado would then go on to destroy 40% of Murfreesboro, Illinois, thankfully sparing the much more densely housed and populated South Murfreesboro, so the northern side of Murfreesboro was hit. The tornado would go on to destroy approximately 30% of DeSoto, nearly wipe Parrish, Illinois off the map at approximately 90% destroyed, and completely destroy Griffin, Indiana as well, similarly to how, of course, Gorham was completely obliterated. The tornado would continue on into Indiana, past Griffin, of course, majorly damaging the town of Princeton before possibly dissipating. At least this is what one source says. A study done in 2013 suggests more tornadic damage after this, but we'll get there when we get there, I promise you. This tornado, combining this track into one, it had a ground time of 3 hours and 45 minutes, which is absolutely insane. And here I'm going to show you some pictures as they pop up here. It was absolutely impossible for me to combine the amount of text that I had on just the previous slide and any damage photo, so I'm doing it here. This first picture here is Annapolis, Missouri. This, well, was Annapolis, Missouri. It was, again, at 90% destroyed. We see Gorham here in the middle, and at the top right, we see Longfellow School, which I will discuss at the very end of this video here. In the middle right here, we have a rescuer helping out in DeSoto, Illinois. And at the bottom is a panorama of Murfreesboro, Illinois. At the very bottom right here, we have what was Griffin, Indiana. Notice here that in Annapolis and also in Griffin, response was indeed fairly quick. We do see some tents up already with these damaged photos. This panorama of Murfreesboro was taken on the same day. There is still some fire going on. You can see smoke here, but thankfully response was quick among civilians and any firefighters and policemen and anyone else, as it has always been with humans. You know, we tend to want to help out each other after something bad happens, and that's what, of course, we will always do. We must move on, as the Tri-State tornado is not our only notable. We have also the Malkport, Indiana, to south of Louisville, Kentucky, F4. This tornado would cause 4 fatalities as well as 60 injuries, and was estimated to be around 1.1 kilometers wide at its widest and tracked for 29 kilometers. This tornado was, according to Wikipedia, quote, a large, very intense tornado, end quote, that destroyed many farms in Laconia, Indiana, and Elizabeth, Indiana specifically. Near the Ohio River, a 2-block wide swath of damage was reportedly not just damaged, but completely destroyed, leveled. It was also around this point, or at least after crossing the Ohio River, I should say, that a multi-story, one source states a 3-story brick home, was completely wiped in Lakeland, Kentucky. We have another F4 that happened in Kentucky, the Buck Lodge, Tennessee to Beaumont, Kentucky F4. This tornado caused even more deaths, 41 of them, with an unknown amount of injured. This tornado pathed much longer than than the previous notable at 97 kilometers. Is estimated to be only around 370 meters at its widest. This was, first of all, most likely a tornado family, so multiple tornadoes, not just one, as is probably the case with the Tri-State, more on that later, which started north of Gallatin, Tennessee. It was around Gallatin and the surrounding towns, or at least the towns in the tornado's path, more accurately, where homes and churches would be leveled. This tornado reportedly caused approximately 2 to more inches of ground scouring, and also, according to multiple sources, evidently dismembered bodies. Given a tornado's strength, that is possible, but it's just the first time that I've heard of a tornado doing that. It is mentioned indeed that these or just one of the tornadoes in the family could have been F5. However, this is rated as just a singular tornado and as F4. Our last notable here, oop, you didn't see that. We're not there yet. Our fourth notable is I didn't find a specific town, but a county was provided in western Marion County, Kentucky, and this went to Lexington, Kentucky, and was an F3. This tornado would cause 2 deaths and 40 injuries. With the exact same path length as our previous notable, despite it being a family, this tornado was thinner, so to say, reportedly being around 270 meters wide. This tornado, again like the previous, was most likely a family of tornadoes, but reliable records of tornadoes would only start another 4th century later, 1950s. So this indication of a family is most likely accurate. But again, when you only have sporadic reports of a funnel cloud with individual towns in a northwest track, you kind of have no choice but to say that it just was an individual tornado. But I digress. Along the tornado's path in Washington County, many structures were destroyed. I do realize that I indeed spelled structures wrong. I have spelled structured, not structures. I apologize for that. It is also estimated that one or multiple, or just, again, one but just multiple times of the tornadoes may have reached F4. Whether this again being multiple tornadoes in the family or just a single tornado multiple points in its life. However, just like the previous being F4 and plausibly F5, this tornado is listed as a singular event, a singular tornado, not as a family of with individual reports, and officially F3. We are at our significance, so I'm finally close to done talking. That's not a bad thing, right? Showing again the path of the Tri-State tornado here. Of course, the most famous tornado from this outbreak is indeed the Tri-State, and why the hell wouldn't it be? This tornado is infamous, and anyone living in America is going to hear about this tornado at some point. At least if you get an education in America, I guess I should say. The Tri-State tornado holds multiple records, and we are going to go through them. First of all, it is the deadliest in the United States to date, at 695 deaths. It is the deadliest tornado to ever impact the state of Illinois, with 588 deaths attributed to this tornado, and is the deadliest tornado so far in recorded history to strike Indiana, with 95 deaths attributed to this tornado. The Tri-State tornado also caused the worst tornado-related school disaster in American history so far. Longfellow School, like what was pictured with our pictures of the Tri-State, suffered 33 deaths because the school collapsed. The Tri-State tornado also holds the record for having the worst single town death toll. This death toll again from a single town is held by Murfreesboro, Illinois, which, after both direct and due to injuries or fire after the tornado, is accounted to 234 deaths from Murfreesboro, Illinois. This tornado also holds, of course, the longest recorded tornado track in history. However, this is, of course, up for debate. The path seen here is most likely from different tornadoes. Despite possibly from Beale to Princeton and a little bit beyond, so before 1400 Central Daylight Time, that's 2 p.m., so before Beale, so as tornadoes possibly hit Annapolis, this was a family event. So the supercell formed, produced a tornado at approximately 101, sparing Ellington and Redford, of course, possibly dissipated, and then another tornado destroyed Annapolis, then lifted, then possibly more tornadoes. It's estimated to be around anywhere from just 1 all the way up to 3 tornadoes before Beale, essentially. A 2013 study, which I will put in the description down below, is a PDF, so it might have trouble loading for some devices, or it might download to your device and then you have to open it with your files. Or if you're on PC, it might do that same thing too. I don't know. What I mean to say is that there's a study done in 2013 that describes tornadic damage before Ellington and past Princeton, approximately, I think it was 20 miles and anywhere from 30 to 40 miles before and after, respectively. So this study also does account that it was likely multiple tornadoes and brings the Tri-State tornado itself to a track of 280 kilometers long instead of the 352. Now, accounting for every single tornado the Tri-State Supercell produced, you are looking at a total track of 510 kilometers with a total ground time, not just from Tri-State, but again from all of the tornadoes, at 5.5 hours, which is insanely long for any supercell to be producing tornadoes for. But that is what it has done. The Tri-State tornado holds another record as being the fastest continuously moving tornado, not just for a few seconds, at approximately 70 to all the way up to 73 miles per hour. This was done close to the end of its life, so as it was in Indiana. Apologies if you hear my dog barking in the background. The Tri-State tornado is estimated to have reached wind speeds of up to 300 miles per hour. However, the only way to verify this would be in a way similarly done to the 1990 Plainfield F5, where we just go by accounts of ground scouring, because construction in 1925 was not as good as it is 98 years later, is not as good as theorized by Dr. Ted Fujita when he invented the Fujita scale, which, yes, is inaccurate. He is not a structural engineer. He is a was a tornadologist. So the 300 miles per hour, I can likely assume and say yes, that's true, but you can never verifiably say yes. We have records of the Tri-State tornado in 1925 being 300 miles per hour. We just have to go by accounts, is the problem here. I'm done on ranting about the rating. The last thing here is that there's no direct comparison to this supercell. The supercell created a ground time of tornadoes of 5.5 hours, like I stated. with total tracks of 510 kilometers. Not even the Tri-State Supercell did this. Not even the Gwynn, Alabama tornado from 1974 did this. Even with the 280 and the lesser, approximately, I think it's 155 miles, estimated by Dr. Grzoulis, this is still pretty far ahead in first place compared to any other long track tornado. So there was multiple things unique about this cell that caused it to produce such a absolute and infamous monster. But that is all that I can verifiably say and that I have for the not only the Tri-State tornado but about this outbreak as a whole. I hope you all learned something, of course. That's the point of these. I now will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.